الحمد لله خالق الوجود من العدم وجاعل النور من الظلم ومخرج الصبر من الألم فملك التوبة على الندم فنشكره على المصائب كما نشكره على النعم ونصلي على رسوله الأكرم ذي الشرف الأشم والنور الأتم والكتاب المحكم وكمال النبيين والخاتم سيد ولد آدم الذي بشر به عيسى بن مريم ودعا لبعثته إبراهيم عليه السلام حين كان يرفع قواعد بيت الله المحرم فصلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى أتباعه خير الأمم الذين بارك الله بهم كافة الناس العرب منهم والعجم فالحمد لله الذي نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فقد قال جل وعلا في كتابه العزيز وفرقانه الحميد بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ قال موسى لقومه اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ أنجاكم من آل فرعون يسومونكم سوء العذاب يذبحون أبناءكم ويستحيون نساءكم وفي ذلكم بلاء من ربكم عظيم وإذ تأذن ربكم لئن شكرتم لأزيدنكم ولئن كفرتم إن عذابي لشديد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Within the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal speaks very extensively regarding the Israelites, specifically more in details in Surah Al-Baqarah. But in today's short khutbah, I'd like to share with you one incident from the life of the Israelites and the interaction that they had with Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. We all know that the Israelites were being tortured and were being oppressed and were in absolute dhulm and oppression by the Pharaoh. And Allah Azza wa Jal from that incident, which is a very long story, just captures a small scene from that incident and relates it to us, which is a timeless guidance for every single one of us till the Day of Judgment. Now, we all know the incident from the biblical version that Fir'aun saw a dream that there will be a person from the Israelites that will come and ultimately take over his authority and his kingdomship, and therefore he started to slaughter the babies. And the narration only mentioned that he was slaughtering the babies, but there's this more specific detail. He wasn't slaughtering all the male babies every single year, rather he was slaughtering them every other year. Because if he was to be slaughtering all of them, then who would do the labor work? Who would be the police? Who would do the construction and all the labor work? So therefore, he was slaughtering the babies every other year to keep them. And he also had this fear in the back of his mind that if he was to kill all of them, then what would happen is there will be no one to do work on one hand. The other hand, he was very proportionate in the youth that he was killing. Because if he wasn't to kill them, then his fear was all of them will gather together. You could only be tortured to a certain limit where you go at this level of rage and you go against him, and then they will come after him. So therefore he was killing them and he was keeping the daughters alive for other political reasons. So Fir'aun, not only was he a tyrant king, he was evil, but he was also a political genius. Now this incident is very long, and later on the verses which I have recited upon you, Allah Azza wa Jal says that those people who believed in Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescued them. They crossed the river, Fir'aun drowned, and now they were at the other side. When they were at the other side, they were in a desert land. Now here comes another test in life. There's no food, you're suffering from starvation, you're in a desert land, there's no shade, it's extremely hot. And now these people are complaining to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam that we have no food, we're suffering from starvation, what should we do? Do something for us. Now Musa alayhi salatu wasalam gets on the pulpit, and you would expect that he would give a talk about sabr, because when people are suffering from something, if they're going through a calamity, if they're going through struggle, they're going through a hard time, what is usually expected to say to that person is, brother, bear patience. But he gets up on the pulpit and he says, وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ اذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذْ أَنْجَاكُمْ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ. remember the bounties and the ni'mah and the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you when Allah has saved you from the Pharaoh and his people. The first attitude that you and I should have, because what happens to many of us is when we're stuck in a calamity, we're in a small little bubble and we don't think outside. The first thing is that you and I have to remember that what Allah has saved me from, what Allah has protected me from. Because He goes on to say, يَسُومُونَكُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ He protected you from a severe punishment, to the extent that their faces just used to become black. Their faces used to be dark. There was no light on their face. يُذَبِّحُونَ أَبْنَاءَكُمْ In front of you, you saw your own children being slaughtered. وَيَسْتَحْيُونَ نِسَاءَكُمْ And used to leave your women. وَفِي ذَلِكُمْ بَلَاءٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ عَظِيمٌ That was a huge, severe calamity in your life. And then Allah Azza wa Jal declares something beautiful. That if you're not going to remember the bounties of Allah, وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ He declares that if you are grateful to Allah, Allah will definitely increase. Now He doesn't mention what He's going to increase in. The statement is unclear. If I was to say, may Allah increase for me, someone could say, increase you in what? In weight, in diabetes, in high blood pressure, like increase you in what? The statement needs to be qualified, clarified. So increase you in what? Every single one of us have our own struggle. Every single one of us have things that we are lacking in. And therefore Allah Azza wa Jal can increase us in many things. Increase us in terms of our finance. Increase us in terms of our shukr. Increase us in terms of our forbearance. Increase us in terms of our tolerance. So He says that if you are grateful to Allah, definitely He will increase for you. وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ Subhanallah, this is from the mercy of Allah. He says, if you are ungrateful, then just know one thing. He didn't say فَإِنَّ عَذَابِي Then know this. He says إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ Just know that my punishment is severe. Many a times when people say think positive, that's correct, we should be thinking positive, but that doesn't solve our problem. Those people, they have absolute right to be complaining because they're suffering from starvation. They have no food. Their children are crying. They have nothing to offer to their children. And you're telling me to think positive? Okay, great. I'm going to think positive. Well, guess what? I might die positive as well because that doesn't solve my problem. But what it does to you is the mentality that you have. A believer doesn't only think positive. A believer's attitude is changed to be grateful to Allah Azza wa Jal and whatever He bestowed upon him. Whatever situation you and I may be in, the thing what you and I need to master is we need to take a step back, pause and reflect and think how things could be so much worse. Many of us, we can say ran away from third world countries. Because why? We came to this country for economic growth. If anyone stands up over here and says, oh, I came to America to build a masjid, brother, you're lying. Every single one of us came here to this country for economic growth, for a better life. So when things get a little hard, you need to be grateful and thinking that I could have been that person in the other side of the world who's suffering, who has starvation, who has no food, who doesn't know what they're going to eat the next meal. But I, alhamdulillah, have a roof above my head even if I'm struggling. So there's so much to be grateful for to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever He has given to us. And this is why Allah Azza wa Jal within the Quran says, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ Very few people will be actually grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Very few of my servants will be grateful to Him. The scholars mentioned there's 3 types of shukr that you and I need to master. There are 3 types of shukr that you and I need to learn. The first is the shukr of the heart. That you and I need to appreciate some things within our life. Many a times children aren't able to appreciate their parents until they themselves grow up and become parents one day. So to first appreciate from the heart. The second is to appreciate through the tongue. And remember, the tongue and the heart need to be attached to each other. It's just that I'm saying alhamdulillah, but then my conversation when you move on forward is just complaint after complaint after complaint. So you meet a person, you're like, brother, how's everything? And he's like, alhamdulillah. And then the next few sentences, my wife doesn't listen to me, my kids don't listen to me, my car just broke down, I don't have this, I don't have the job, my dream job that I want, and etc., etc. Just complaint after complaint after complaint. Well, what was that alhamdulillah for? Was it for formality? What was it for? Because alhamdulillah means I'm happy with Allah and I'm pleased with Allah, and all praise belongs to Allah for whatever circumstances I am in. So the first is the shukr of the heart. The second is the shukr of the tongue. And the third is the shukr of the deeds, of our actions. In English they say actions speak louder than words. So if someone says, I love you to their family, I love you to their kids and whatever, and they don't give any time to their children, well, that's not just love, that's just lip service. Someone can say, I love this masjid, it's great and whatever, but you never even volunteered one day in this masjid. You never contributed anything towards this masjid. So all these three are aspects and elements in terms of a shukr. And this is why Allah Azza wa Jal commands us so many places, وَمَنْ يَشْكُرْ فَإِنَّمَا يَشْكُرُ لِنَفْسِهِ, that the one who expresses gratitude is only expressing gratitude for themselves. Because if you are grateful, remember Allah Azza wa Jal will elevate you in this world as well as in the hereafter. Allahumma ja'alna min ash-shakirin. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us amongst the shakirin. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen.